Sometimes you, as a designer, you have to work solo. So much of what we do, you're working by yourself so
Yeah.
much. Whereas if you're in an office every day, you can run into someone's office and say, "Hey, what do you think? Do you like this? Is
Hmm.
this a good idea? Is this not a good idea?" We don't have someone to do that with. Well,
Right.
we do every single day.
Yeah.
So we always have that checks and balances between the two of us to always make sure that we're on track, that we're
Yeah.
always coming up with a different resource or a different vendor
Yeah.
or something one of us will come up with that the other one didn't. And
Yeah.
that's how we approach all of our design projects is collaborative.
Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. If you're tired of one size fits all advice to running your interior design business, you're in the right place. Join me each week as we dive into topics to help you run a thriving interior design business without the hustle. We'll talk about the business of design, but also mindset and mental health, because I know when you thrive, so will your life and business. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate interior design job to build my own design business so that I could realize my own creative dreams, have more time with the people I love, and serve my clients at the highest level while making more money than I ever could have working for someone else. It wasn't always easy, and I made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. Since then, I've built multiple six-figure interior design businesses on authentic word-of-mouth referrals with many repeat clients. And I want to share it all with you, the ambitious, inspired, and I get it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives through the art of interior design. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it.
My guests today are the mother and daughter duo, Susan Hayward and Jillian Hayward Scheibel from Milton, Massachusetts. After a career in public relations and development, Susan left the corporate world to raise her family and help her husband launch a successful photography business. Before long, Susan realized it was time to pursue her own dream of an interior design career. So she went back to school and launched her firm in 2006. Fast forward, and her daughter Jillian, a marine biologist, started helping her mom part-time, where she discovered she had caught the bug too. Realizing her passion for design, Jillian too turned her full focus toward an interior design education and now works full-time with her mom, Susan. Today, Susan and Jillian run their firm with a simple philosophy that interior design should reflect the personality and the lifestyle of the client, not the interior designer. I'm so thrilled to have you guys with us today. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Hello, we're good. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited.
Thank you
Oh,
so much for inviting us onto your podcast.
oh my gosh, I'm thrilled. And when I first we sort of crossed paths, I thought to myself, heck yeah, I want to talk to these ladies because first of all, being in business together with a family member is a serious commitment. And so I'm super intrigued and interested to hear how you guys make that work. But the other piece that really struck me that I think our audience is going to really enjoy hearing from you about is um, you say it's an unconventional path, but I don't know that it's as unconventional because I have been talking and working with designers for full time for about 5 years now. And there are a lot of designers who this is their second, if not third career. And I think it's because this career works. Like it checks a lot of boxes in terms of flexibility, creativity, uh, potential for profitability. And so, but I think that hearing your windy path is going to really resonate to a lot of our audience. So, because I think they'll see themselves too in that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just excited to hear kind of how you guys have come together, how it's all worked, what's been hard, right? Because we know this is not a straightforward path, this work that we do. So I'm excited to get into all of that.
Awesome. We're so excited too.
Now, you guys are in Milton, Massachusetts. I've never been to Massachusetts, but tell me, because my understanding is just like one of the most beautiful, and I love old places, like beautiful places in America. Tell me about Milton, Massachusetts.
Milton, it's very suburban. There's not a lot of industry here. Um, it's just, there's a lot of open space, a lot of green, a lot of colonial homes, very
Oof,
traditional. I think it's what you would
yes.
think of New England.
Yeah. Yeah. I was I struggle with rabbit holes sometimes, and I found myself on Redfin looking at real estate in Milton, Massachusetts earlier this morning, and I was in love with the homes there. They're so beautiful. I love old homes, and I would love to come visit that part of the country sometime.
It's interesting because that's actually part of our niche as to what we're doing a little bit differently when we get to that part of it. Because
Well,
having
let's get
Jillian
to
come
it.
in, yeah, with the West Coast inspiration, since
Mhm.
she has spent some time out there, that's really changed our business so that we're able to give a little bit more to our clients than just what they're expecting here on the East Coast. We try to give them a little something fresh and different.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm really excited to dig into that, but I do want to give a little bit of backstory. So I want you guys to share. I know that you have said before that it feels like an unconventional path. So you, Susan, first started out after you left your corporate job. You helped your husband launch a successful photography business, and you sort of recognized, I got this business thing down, but I really want to pursue this um, passion of interior design. And so you turned your attention full time to that. So let's start there. How did that transition go? Can you sort of teleport yourself back to that era when this was just a twinkle in your eye before it was real? What conversations were you having with yourself? What were you talking about with your spouse? What were you worried about? What were you excited about? And I just sort of give me an idea of how you worked through moving it from just an idea into this full-fledged business that you have today.
Sure, sure. Having the photography business when my kids were young, being an entrepreneur and being able to have my own time and be flexible, I've always said family first, and that's part of our partnership as mother-daughter as well. There's nothing more important than family. So when I started the business with my husband, that was part of it. It was like, I'm only going to do this if I can be there to raise my children and to be there when they need me to be there. If they're sick, I want to be the one that
Yeah.
that can do that. I have the flexibility to do that. Not all women do. And I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative that I was always able to do that. But it
Right.
got to a point where the kids were teenagers and it was like, geez, it's like I'm getting a little bored. Like there's more that I want to do. I'd
Yeah.
always done interior design with my friends, in my own house and thought, gee, wouldn't this be great? However,
Yeah.
I also knew that to be an interior designer, I wanted to be legitimate. Like I didn't want to just hang a shingle out there and say, I have a really good design sense, so let me be an interior designer.
Uh-huh.
And I
Uh-huh.
think that that's a mistake that a lot of people make is they think because you have a good design sense, you can become an interior designer. I knew that wasn't right. So I decided to go back to school.
Yeah.
That was my biggest, I wasn't young and
Uh-huh.
my kids were teenagers. I was going to go back to school. It was my kids were going to be having college tuition come up and here I've got a college tuition coming up.
Uh-huh.
Is this
Yeah.
something I really want to do? So that was the terrifying part for me. It was never about starting the business or to do any of that. It was the going back to school. And I was the older person in the classroom.
Mm.
There were all these 20 somethings and me, and I was kind of mom to everyone. It was hard. But I think for someone who wants to go this path, if you want
Mhm.
to do it, you have to do it and do it right. There's so many things going through that I did not know. More things that I
Right.
didn't know than I did know.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to become legitimate and you have to make sure that you have the education behind you to
Mhm.
then move forward and put your shingle out and say, now
Yeah.
I can legitimately have this business.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because you had this business background, but you recognize that you lacked sort of the technical skills, which I think is something that a lot of people don't understand or realize coming into this career, how technical and how nuanced it can be, and the responsibility of a designer. And so it is important, I believe, to because there's designers like myself, like I had the degree, but and I had the education, but I didn't understand the business side. So I had to figure that piece out. And that's true for a lot of designers. And it's the opposite is true, that have come from having different sort of skill sets, but don't have that, the technical piece figured out. So I always recommend that designers get a design education. And the cool thing is today, there are so many options out there. And, it doesn't always have to be a full-fledged 4-year degree program. There are other programs that are more abbreviated and more flexible. And so I do think that now more than ever, there are options that can help you get that education piece, because you will be more confident because you can really stand behind your work in that way. So, okay. So you went to school, and then did you work for anybody, or did you go straight into building your own business?
Well, it's interesting because coming out of school, I already had a network built. I
Mm,
already had a business. I already had a network. I had people
cool.
that I knew. It wasn't like I was 20 something thinking, well, what do I do now? So my
Yeah.
business was just a natural extension of what I was currently doing.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of went off to all of those contacts, and they all knew what I was doing. So I kind of hit the ground running, and
Love
we
it.
haven't stopped since. It's great. It's one of those things where networking is everything. We say every person that you meet on a job is a potential next job.
Yeah.
It could be the
Yeah.
plumber, the electrician, the tile guy, the whoever it might be that you're meeting. That's someone else that's going to help you make your business go. And you start small, maybe at first you
Hmm.
just recover a few chairs,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
move on to a full room, and then move on to a renovation before you tackle a whole house, or,
Right.
kind of go slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, it's a really refreshing way of looking at the people that you meet. And I think that there's a lot of people, perhaps, younger early designers, that don't have that confidence to sort of go out and talk about what they do with clarity. And that's what I'm here hoping to help people do. But it's like recognizing that everyone you meet is a prospective client or a connection to a prospective client. Like literally anybody could be the person, and not discounting those interactions. So then Jillian, I want to get to you, because you at some point started pitching in and helping your mom part-time, but you come from a military background. Your husband is in the Navy. And by the way, thank you for your service, because it is a whole family that commits to this. I understand. Um,
Absolutely.
and so you went to college, you have a BA marine science, and then you sort of were in this, walk us through kind of how you went from your college experience to being a marine scientist, and how that was sort of wove its way into where you
Sure.
are today.
Yeah, sure. So I was finishing up my degree as a senior at Boston University, studying marine biology, as you mentioned. That year, actually as a junior, I met my husband later in that year, and he was a year older than me. So I was almost done with my degree. I had one more year left, but he was heading off to Pensacola, Florida, for his pilot training. So he was joining as a Navy pilot, and at that time didn't know, but he was going to soon be a helicopter pilot. So after I graduated, I was still together with him, and I decided, let's move to Florida. Why not go join him? So I literally graduated, and the next day started driving down. At that point, I did have a job ready at a zoo down there, because it was the anything or really the only thing I could find that was in the realm of what I wanted to do. There was nothing
Mhm.
marine science wise that really interested me, but I decided to take a role at this zoo, and totally out of my comfort zone, but I love nature. I love animals. Why not? um, had a pretty good, scientific education at that point. So
Sure.
interesting, but I loved my time there. And that's when I really started just helping Susan on the side. kind of right off the gate in Florida, really just with administrative issues. So she was getting, so many orders through and getting more and more clients, needing help with her things like her website, just things on the back end that I needed nothing interior design, knowledge for, just to
Sure.
kind of help on the business standpoint. So that's where I started with her. And it was really just a few hours a week, maybe helping with some blog posts or Facebook posts and things like that. So the
Yeah.
more we started working together, during my time in Florida, the more I started really just enjoying not only working with my mom, but seeing like, wow, this doesn't really feel like work. This is fun. The clients are
Yeah.
great. You have such great relationships. And my
Mhm.
mom and I, we're already best friends. So it's like, great, you work with your mom and your best friend, like work-life balance, that's the dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so after that, we moved to San Diego for his
Mhm.
next tour, and we spent several tours in San Diego. At that time, I was actually guiding naturalist tours on kayaks and doing whale watching and things like that.
Oh,
So
wow.
continuing my marine science background there, but more and more working with my mom at that point.
Yeah.
When my husband came back from his first deployment, I really just kind of looked at myself and said, okay, we're going to want to be starting a family soon. What are we going to do? Like I knew that from the moment I moved down to Florida, I never wanted to not have a career. However, I always want to choose my family first. So
Yeah.
there's no option other than to have both. So what is that career going to look like is really what I had to decide.
Mhm.
Um, and it just seemed like a natural transition. So I went, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, did an online certificate program. I
Yeah.
worked really hard to get all that knowledge, and I
Yeah.
found that I really liked the technical parts of it because that's where my comfort zone was. My
I could
scientific
see
mind
that.
was like floor plans, like everything, this makes
Yeah.
sense to me,
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
creativity part of it was where I really had to learn so much from my mom and just research and do all of that. So I think we came from totally different standpoints. I really loved the technical side, and that was my comfort zone. And my mom was just had this amazing design sense, creativity. And so that's where we sort of meshed, right? And so we
Mm.
both kind of grew in both directions, which was great.
I can see this all coming together now. Here, having heard a little bit more from both of you, and can see how that would be a really beautiful partnership, right? Bringing these different skill sets that are so important to what we do, but also really working different parts of our brain, right?
Hmm.
um,
Absolutely.
Jillian, so you're working as a zookeeper, and uh, I want to go to that specifically because I didn't know you have lots. I know you have lots of
Is
experience
that
with
not the
all
traditional path?
sorts. Yeah. I believe with my whole heart that every experience we have in life contributes to our work as interior designers and business owners. So you have this degree in marine science. You are a zookeeper. Can you tell me, can you think of a specific skill set in that specific job that, or really any of your marine biology experience? Sounds like you hinted at it just now a little bit, but
Mm.
that are skills that you developed in that role that translates today into the work that you do as a designer or and or a business owner.
Yes. Two things come to mind. First, I will say just my innate passion and love of all things nature, natural world, animals.
Mhm.
I really bring that into design. Susan will say, I'm
Yeah.
always trying to push for natural elements in the room, earthy textures and tones, and just
Mhm.
making the outdoors come in.
Yeah.
I'm also really passionate about doing our best to show sustainable options to our clients, trying our best to, yes, it's the future. It's what we need.
Thank you.
It's not, I wish it was so much
Yeah.
easier to do. It's not that available. There are not that many companies, that
Mhm.
offer a great variety of things we need. That said, we can
Mhm.
always do better, but whenever
Yes. Yeah.
possible, we always, always, always try to look for more sustainable
Always.
options for our clients. And that's
Yeah.
something that I'm really, really passionate about. That's what I would say on one stance. The other is just being out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you just have to be, and you will be
Mhm.
thrown into a situation where there's nothing in the world that may have been able to prepare you for this situation. For me in the zoo, it was a physical thing. So I actually was a zookeeper for very angry water buffalo that that I every day would just have anxiety about going into the exhibit with this particular animal because I was truly feared for my life every time. And I
Oh,
mean this genuinely. I had to figure out how I was going to do this safely. There was
yeah.
really not too many people to be able to help. I mean, there were other zookeepers, but you got to do it and you just got to
Mhm.
do it well. And if you don't, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, the consequences
Like,
are, the stakes are
but
high.
the stakes are high. So it made me I mean, I pride myself on being a pretty strong person. And I feel like did not feel strong in many situations. There were so many firsts there, more firsts than anything,
Mhm. Mhm.
any other position I've ever found myself in. And I was able to get through all of those hard days.
Yeah.
So I think that taking that into a whole different field that really was out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
as as strange to say that zookeeping was more in my comfort zone than interior design was. It was a lot less physically dangerous, but but
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
feel like almost almost like I knew nothing, in the beginning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do still feel that way and just reminding myself
Sure.
that this is part of life. You will get
Yeah.
through it and you have to. It's going to be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I love what you said so much. And I didn't have an expectation of how I thought you might respond to that question, but it very much isn't what I think I may have expected if I had really thought about it. But here's my point to the folks listening. And I feel like I say this till I'm blue in the face, but I'm going to keep talking about it because I'm very, very passionate about this topic, that every single experience you have in life informs who you are today, the way you see the world, the way you treat clients, the way you view home, interior design, the work that you do, everything. I mean, I did a whole episode on how much I waited tables at high-end restaurants through my college experience to help get me through college. And at the time, I could never have told you that there was anything of value from that experience. And now looking back, I see how much valuable skills I developed in that work. And so, but I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to one student of mine. She was previously a private investigator for the FBI, and she couldn't see and draw the connection. And through talking to her, we uncovered, well, she's actually really good at digging deeper and getting beneath the surface of what her clients are asking for. And so I just wanted to hear that from you specifically in this zookeeper experience, because it underscores that I'm not making this stuff up.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
want designers
absolutely.
to really think about how these experiences they've had, whether it's travel, whether it's career, whether it's life, it all helps and contributes to your special thing, your X factor, the thing that makes you you, and nobody can take that away from you. And so I just thought that was a really beautiful way that you shared how that experience informs your work today. So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you take a little bit of your past into each thing that then go into. So
Yeah.
it's seamless. Yeah.
Yeah, how can you not? Susan, you helped launch your husband's photography business, and it sounds like you really enjoyed that process of launching a company. I want to know, when it came for you, I can talk. When it came time for you to start your own interior design business, was the experience the same for you now that you're doing it sort of on your own? Did you enjoy it? Was it harder or easier than you thought? And maybe tell us, were there some things that you didn't expect that you had to figure out? Kind of take us back to those early days of putting it all together.
Sure, sure. Coming out of school, my concern then, and Jillian will tell you, even as busy as we are now, it's something that I can never stop thinking about, and that is, how am I ever going to get a client? Like,
Mhm.
who's ever going to know who I am?
Mhm.
Why are they going to want to come to me when there is so many interior designers out there? Like, what's going to make me different? What's going to make me, the person that they choose? How are they going to find me? And, it was again through networking and just
Mhm.
everything that you just talked about, your entire life's experience,
Mhm.
all of those people that you've met along the way. You
Yeah.
have relationships and you take a little bit from each thing. So And it's,
Yeah.
one person brings you to the next person, which brings you to the next person. And it just kind of blossoms. And that's how,
Yeah.
you go from residential to commercial, because this particular client owns a restaurant and he wants you to
Uh-huh.
do that. And this one is a corporate executive and they want you to do their office. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you start little, but it's like a flower and it just keeps on blooming. But again, I keep using family first. And
Yeah.
that was what was the most important thing for me when I
Mhm.
started my business with my husband,
Mhm.
was to make sure that no matter what I did in life, that was my family was always going to be a priority. So then starting this business, now my kids are teenagers, and let's face
Yeah.
it, they needed me more home than they did when I was little, because,
Oh,
they
is
don't
that
want me
true?
around, but I want to be, I want to be around then.
I
So
love that.
again, flexibility, like I
Yeah.
was able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to, schedule things myself,
Mhm.
um, and just had the benefit of all of that. And then when it got to the point where I knew I needed more than just me, like I couldn't do this just by myself. And
Mhm.
I didn't
Mhm.
have a lot of the technical abilities to do some of the things. Like I'm from the old school where you went in with boards, like actual physical boards, design boards, and baskets full
Uh-huh.
of fabrics that you would bring
Yeah.
to clients. And then, it gets to a point where this is just not efficient anymore. We can be doing inspiration boards, we can be doing things on the computer, and in walks this like light of my life that says she's going to help
Oh,
me. So how can I say no to that? And then
right.
every day, being able to have that person work with you
Yeah.
and bring a whole new energy to
Yeah.
the work only made it that much easier. And honestly, we've never had a problem with family delineation, because
Uh-huh.
she's my family, so I
Yeah.
know everything that's going on in her life.
Yeah.
So if I know her kids were sick one night, I'm not going to
Yeah.
bother her with something silly the next day. That's a
Yeah.
stupid design question that has no relevance to anything.
Yeah.
So it's just because we know so much about each other and where we
Uh-huh.
are just
Yeah.
mentally, we're able to help each other, where I think an employee employer you really can't
Uh-huh.
do.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. How do you talk? I want you to sort of imagine right now you're talking to a young designer and holding boundaries. They want to have what you're talking about. They want to have this family first life and serve their clients and pursue this beautiful creative career. But they're struggling with creating those healthy boundaries that we all need with clients. Can you seem to that seems to come really naturally for you. So I'd love for you to just kind of imagine that you're talking to that designer who knows they need to be better at creating healthy boundaries with their clients, and why it's so important, and how can they do that. Because I think what you're talking about right now is something that a lot of designers who have young families strive for and want, but it's not easy. And I'm asking because this was me like 10 years ago, right? I did not get this right
Yeah.
away.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, uh, if you give an inch, if you give someone an inch, they're going to take a mile, sort of thing. So you
Yeah.
really do need to set up some kind of a boundary.
Yeah.
Texting now is everything. Everyone texts any time of day or night,
Mhm.
depending upon when they're thinking about something. Whether
Sure.
or not you choose to answer that at that
Mhm.
time is your choice. You
Yeah.
have a choice in every one of those responses. If you
Yeah.
choose to work 9 to 5, you respond to things during a 9 to 5 time.
Yeah.
If you choose to work in the evening, then you respond to some of those things during that time. But it should always be on your terms.
Yeah.
Make sure that you do it on your terms, because the person who's sending that information to you doesn't necessarily expect an answer right then. In our
Yeah.
minds, we think, oh my God, I got to take care of this right now. Oh my God, they hate the sofa. What am I going to do? I have to call them right now because they just got home and the sofa was delivered and they hate the sofa. First thing you do is you wait 24 hours, because
Yeah.
everything needs 24 hours to settle. We have one
Mhm.
client that we know right now, and we're doing her entire house. Every single thing that comes into her house, the delivery people are no sooner going to be down the stairs and we're going to get a phone call and she's going to say, oh no, I don't know. I don't know about this. And we're saying, 24 hours, you're going to love it. And then the next day she's like, oh, Oh, thank you. It was just wonderful. So
Yeah.
just remember that. Remember that people are doing things
Yeah.
on their time
Hmm.
and responding when it's convenient for them. But
Yeah.
this is your job. Set your
Yeah.
boundaries, make your time. If you have 7 to 8 o'clock at night and you know that you're free every time at night from that time, sure, get on your text messages, wipe those things out, answer a few emails and be done with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't even open your computer.
Yeah. Yeah. So wise, so wise. And Jillian, you have, I understand, 4-year-old twins. So you
Yes.
must be in the thick of this right now. You guys, you must understand this too. So how does this show up for you as you're navigating client relations?
It does. So, kind of, I'm in a bit of a transition right now. My husband actually got out of the military almost exactly a year ago. So, up until then, I was really the full primary parent.
Mhm.
And also working. So for me, it was kind of balancing being like my husband didn't have the flexibility to go pick up the kids at school or to do.
Right,
So I really had to figure out a good work-life balance because there
right.
was just no other option.
Mhm.
Now it's a little different. There's a little more flexibility in his new job, but it's sort of starting to slowly release a little bit of that.
Yeah,
And because I work with my mom, as she mentioned, she knows everything that's going on.
yeah,
We're either texting or on the phone or on FaceTime, literally
right.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So, if I need her to respond to something, she will, and vice versa.
Yeah,
We just kind of work it out between the two of us so that one of us can usually work it with the client however we need to. That said, if we're off for the weekend, we're off for the weekend, and our clients will send us emails. There's actually this past weekend, we weren't doing much this weekend, so we responded to a few work emails. We actually got a response back saying, "What are you doing? I didn't expect any response over the weekend. I didn't think I'd hear back until Monday." So I
love
think, as
that.
Susan mentioned, a lot of times your clients know they're just firing things off as they're thinking of them. They're really
Hmm.
not expecting you to be working 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
For us,
yeah,
it's nice when you have someone who just knows what's going on in your personal life and can
yeah,
just kind of take things off your plate if they need to. But
yeah.
we haven't really had too much of an issue with that.
Yeah, I love it. And it sounds like you've got clients that get that and they know what they're getting into when it
Mhm.
comes to working with you. And that was truly for me the thing that I had to do that shifted for me, that changed my relationship with my clients and setting those expectations for them early on. When my babies were little, I would have to say to them, like, listen, it's just me and my assistant. We're a small but mighty team, and you just need to know that we take our commitments to our clients very seriously. And if my kid's sick and I have to push a deadline or a meeting because I've had to focus on them, this is where I am in life, and they're my priority. So they got that, and the ones that didn't just weren't a good fit. But I realized as soon as I set that expectation for them, um, then it was a non-issue, and they knew that that was my priority and that they would still get my attention next, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a big game changer for me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think
I
that
want
also just with COVID, I think this whole notion of having a good, healthy
to,
work-life
yeah,
balance
yeah.
has really gotten more important to people in the past few
Hmm.
years. So I
Hmm.
think it has gotten easier. People understand that we're kind of home all the time. You're always
Yeah,
able to answer an email or able to answer a text. But
yeah,
I think having that balance is just so much more important, and people understand that now.
sure. Yeah. You know, as devastating and awful as COVID was for the whole world, I continually find little silver linings that these things, the way we've sort of adjusted as a culture, in a lot of ways for good. And so that's one of them, and
Hmm. Hmm.
and so it's nice when we can sort of see that for what it is. Hey, designer, are you tired of wasting precious time with prospective clients who are not a right fit? Do you experience imposter syndrome because the back end of your business is kind of a hot mess? Perhaps you're experiencing growing pains and you don't have the tools, resources, or team to support you. I get it. I've been there. As an ambitious interior design business owner myself, I know the roller coaster ride this can be. Over the years, I've learned a thing or two about running a profitable word of mouth design business, and I want to help you find success too.
How would it feel to wake up and face the day knowing exactly what to focus on next, having a roster of enthusiastic clients, including a paid waitlist, and having the space, time, and creative energy to develop projects that you are proud of and are portfolio, if not press worthy? I want to invite you to learn more about the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint, a business coaching program designed exclusively for interior designers who want to serve their clients at the highest level while making good money, but without the burnout and overwhelm. If you're ready to get off the roller coaster, you don't have to do it alone. Join me inside the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint and get the tools, teaching, and community you need to pave the way for an interior design business your clients love and you are proud of. To learn more, grab the link on your audio player or head to designersoasis.com/blueprint. That's designersoasis.com/blueprint.
So you guys just touched on this a little bit. I want to learn a bit more about what it's like working together as a family. You guys clearly are very tight knit, and I love that so much. It really shows. I want to hear, do you guys have a clear division of responsibilities and expectations? Is there a Venn diagram here? Is there some crossover? How do y'all divide your responsibilities and make it all work?
I think that Jillian coming in first, starting with a lot more of the technological abilities than I did, she took over that role.
Yeah.
And that was by design, in that that's something she was much better at than I was. So she does do a lot more of the mood boards and that sort of thing. Other than that, and because I need all of her help as much as I can when she's available, the things that I may do, like all of the business end of the financials and, that sort of stuff. I want her creative genius and all of that. I don't need her to do that stuff while she's putting her kids to bed. I can be balancing the checkbook. Like, that's not a big deal for me.
Sure.
So we definitely kind of have a little bit, and then so we'd have like this 10% and this 10%, and then the 80% in the middle is this.
Yeah.
And by that I mean we have such different things that we bring to the table. Our backgrounds, our age, our life experiences, are all of the things that we then bring to our clients. And we have a different perspective. We each have a very different design perspective. We both like different things. And as a result, our clients are the better for it, because they're always getting the combination of the two, where I may not see something Jillian will, or vice versa, and I think that having a little bit of the West Coast influence on the East Coast makes a huge difference. As Jillian mentioned, sustainability, after, seeing her on the West Coast and seeing how life is there and how precious resources are, has taught me, how much that is as well, that we should bring on to our clients. We also love to collaborate. Like, we love to design together. And I think part of that is, between the two of us, I don't think there's one big full ego. We're both very, very humble, I guess, in our presentations to each other, where we have such a huge respect for each other that we can honestly say, like, if I show Jillian something that, even if I've worked on this for a really long time, and she knows this and thinks that this is just not, she'll say, no, I hate that. Like, no, that's not what she wants. And I'll be like, oh God, what did I do now? Okay, tell me what she wants, but I mean, being able to do that, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make. Sometimes you, as a designer, you have to work solo. So much of what we do, you're working by yourself so much. Whereas if you're in an office every day, you can run into someone's office and say, hey, what do you think? Do you like this? Is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? We don't have someone to do that with. Well, we do every single day. So we always have that checks and balances between the two of us, to always make sure that we're on track, that we're always coming up with a different resource or a different vendor or
Yeah.
or something one of us will come up with that the other one didn't. And
Yeah.
that's how we approach all of our design projects is collaborative.
Yeah,
Sure.
and especially in such a creative space too, like who doesn't love to brainstorm and find another way to do something? Because in our profession, there's not one right way to do anything, really. There's a million ways to design the same room, right? So
Right.
having another person to bounce ideas off of,
Mhm.
especially as Susan said, with totally different experience and preferences, it's like our clients love that because we can show them totally different styles of rooms that I don't think
Mhm.
would be possible with just one lead designer on the project.
Absolutely. There have been a couple of times over my career where I was working solo. For example, when we left Denver, I started from scratch and it was just me. And that was such a hard time because I'm working for clients and I just am in my own little world. And I swear my first hire there in Texas wasn't because I necessarily needed them, but I wanted them because I wanted somebody to collaborate with because I I knew that having somebody to process design ideas with would be better for me, but mostly for my clients, and it turns out it was. So I can see how that all resonates for me with what I'm hearing you say for your clients. I want to. Can we talk about sustainability for a minute? Because this is a really important topic. It's really big on my heart, and it's something that I feel um, I have a responsibility with this platform to start bringing to the forefront more and more. And it's something I've been really passionate about forever, but I'm like, but I never talk about this with the design community. And so
Mhm.
moving into this new year, it's going to be a real focus of a lot of the content that we bring on. So I want to hear, I don't have the figure in front of me, but I just read one of the figures of how many thousands of tons of furniture waste goes to
Yeah.
landfills. Like I want to say it was, I'm not going to quote facts because I don't know facts. I will fact check it and I'll put it in the notes, but it's
Mhm.
like 22,000 tons or something like banana
Right.
cakes just
Yeah.
in the US alone. And so
Yeah.
we're talking about this like fast furniture industry and its impact on the environment. So as designers, with sustainability being such an important aspect of the work you do, how are you finding ways to design for your clients form and function first, but also with responsibility to the environment? What are you guys doing?
There are so many different ways to do this.
Yeah,
Even just small things, the more you do them, they add up.
yeah,
And it can be in anything from sustainably sourced furniture to ethically made to fabrics that are recycled materials. I think more and more vendors and manufacturers are getting on board with this idea because people are demanding them. They're asking for it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I can honestly say on the East Coast, unfortunately, we have never had a client, I don't think, who really cares too much, unfortunately. It's really our responsibility to say this is the better choice, and that's why.
yeah.
On the West Coast, it was the opposite.
Mm.
When I first moved there, I remember Susan visiting, and she's like, "Where's your Saran wrap? You're wrapping everything with beeswax. What is happening here? You have
I
no
did.
Tupperwares. Everything's glass
No
bowls."
paper
Yeah,
napkins.
right. So
That's
just
my
small
mom at my house.
yeah. This was so long ago, but
Yeah.
everything is so much more ahead of the curve in the West
Hmm.
Coast that here in the East
Hmm.
Coast, we're not seeing that as quickly. So,
Yeah.
um, just things like even stone choices or,
Hmm.
you know, new plumbing fixtures that are more efficient, anything like that,
Yeah.
find that vendor that you trust because
Yeah.
more often than not, it's specific vendors that believe in the same things you believe that you'll be going
Hmm.
back to because it's not
Hmm.
just the specific product and the materials, but a big part of that sustainability is how it's made and what
Yeah.
is used in order to create that product.
Yeah.
How many trucks do they have driving? Are they electrical vehicles that are driving? Are they
Yeah.
coming over on ships? There's so much that goes into this. And so a lot of it is on the responsibility of choosing the right vendor, because all of those things are going to have to, meet their checks and balances. And there are some specific fabrics and furniture and, bedding places, for example, that we always look to first to source for clients.
Yeah. So it's,
I think also that, I'm sorry, just gonna say like that the disposable society that has been created, like we try to tell our clients to invest in a piece that you're going to have and not to try to find all of these pieces, don't try to budget down to the point where you're getting all things, just for a few years and then we're going to replace it.
right.
We say to them, phase the project. I would rather you do half the project now and you get the upholstered furniture that you're going to keep for 20 years and you can keep reupholstering that same sofa versus getting the one that's the springs are going to break and you're going to be throwing it out and putting it in a landfill. So I think that making sure that every single thing that you bring in does not have an expiration date. Like that you're bringing in things that are going to stand the test of time and that you can, we say that all the time, the big pieces are the things that we want to last. We try to make them classic. And then all the other little things, you can change a pillow cover and change a room. In fact, we laugh and say, sometimes if you give a mouse a cookie, a client just wants to change a pillow cover and we end up changing the room because they love the new pillow so much, nothing else goes with it. So, those are the kinds of things that I think are also sustainable. It's just making sure that we're not throwing away. Like right there, when you're bringing it in, keep it in. Make sure that what you're bringing in has longevity.
Yes. Preach, Susan, preach. I love it so much. Well, what I'm hearing is a couple of things. First of all, that making this an important aspect of your business, making this really a core value of your business is smart, and that it doesn't mean or necessarily have to suggest that that's you're known as this green designer. I'm using air quotes here in the video, right? Like you can do it without that being your brand. You can do it because it's the right thing to do. And it doesn't have to be that every single selection is put through this really thick lens, this filter of like, does it check all of these boxes? But any little move in the right direction is better than nothing at all. And just having it be a part of your consciousness when you're sourcing and when you're specifying, and that it goes, it's literally everything we touch, thinking about the water flow in the plumbing appliances, thinking about the glues and adhesives. So I love that you're saying that it doesn't mean that it has to be like this big journey that you go out and become an expert on this thing. Just start educating yourself, start learning who the vendors are that, where it matters. I will put a plug in here for Lee Industries. Love their products. Go read about their sustainability story and how they put together upholstered furniture, and it will last you a lifetime. Mine will. But so educating yourself, but also educating your clients, right? Because what I'm hearing you say is that on the East Coast, that's not at the forefront of your clients' minds until you bring it up, but that's culturally different on the West Coast. I thought that was really interesting. But two, it's like, well, I know, Mrs. Smith, that you really want this chair that's $500 cheaper, but let's talk about the difference between this lounge chair and this lounge chair, and talking about, this one is 8-way hand tied instead of sinuous springs, and the frame construction doesn't use toxic glues, and the foam is made out of 80% recycled material, and blah, blah, blah. And so all of a sudden it's like, well, I'd be dumb to not pick this one, right? And so it's putting the bigger picture value on this piece beyond just the price tag. And I love that you're making this a part of the culture there, one client at a time. Are there any other aspects of, like, you have expressed that niching and having this like sort of East Coast, West Coast vibe and the family aspect and the sustainability aspect, but are there other aspects of your brand that you want to share in terms of how you are standing out from other designers in your area?
I think it's really just the fact that we are mother-daughter, but no matter what project it is, if it's commercial, residential, small project, big project, you are getting both of us on as both as involved, as one or the other. There's not a lead designer. We are doing everything together. And I feel that on most jobs, even if it is part of a bigger firm, you're having a principal designer that's going to be doing most of it. And then you'll, maybe have an assistant or, admin working on as well. But you are truly having both of our minds together all the time on the job site. A lot of times we'll be there physically together, or we may, take one meeting here and there, just depending on availability. But we are both part of every project. So it doesn't matter if, we get a project that perhaps is much more traditional and we wouldn't say, oh, that's kind of more Susan's wheelhouse. She'll take this one. This one's more modern, Jillian will do this. And we don't do that. We are both on every project, equally. So I think that's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see how that would be hugely beneficial to your clients to have that both of your brains working in collaboration. A couple of last questions for you. Jillian, you spent a good amount of your young adult life and as a mother, as a Navy wife, were you moving a lot during this time? And if so, can you sort of share a little bit about how that might, how has that changed your relationship with home and doing the work that you do today?
Yeah. So yes, I've lived in all four corners of the country. We started in Florida, ended up in San Diego for actually multiple tours there. So we were very lucky that we were there for almost 8 years, which was kind of unheard of. That was amazing. And then we ended up in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest for our last tour, and then made it back to Boston for the completion. But yeah, I think having moved myself so many times, we lived in several different homes in each of those states, that really learning how important quality pieces are for as a whole, but also really choosing which pieces to invest in. So in the military, we actually kind of always joked that nobody had nice things. And the reason was because, if it was going to fall off the back of a moving truck, like we couldn't bring it with us or we shouldn't buy it. So it happens all the time that, movers will take your pieces and it could be like your great, great, great grandmother's china that you just they pack it and you just hope it makes it to the next spot. So it's can be really hard and emotional when you do invest in these beautiful pieces, because the reality of it is that some things are irreplaceable to you emotionally, but other things that are replaceable, you're not going to get the full value back. So really choosing what to invest in specifically and how you're going to make each home that you live in really feel like your home, no matter how, short or long you live there for. So pieces that you'll always have, like, that your bed will be your bed in every home, right? Like, the dimensions pretty much. Sometimes specific sectionals may not work in different homes and things like that, but really trying to feel each client out for what is going to stay there long term, what really needs to be a quality piece, and really just their personality, and try to bring that into the design of the room. As Susan mentioned, we don't want to design a space as us, because we're going to leave eventually, and we want that client to feel like they're living in their own home, not they're just walking around this beautiful place that they don't really recognize. So just the importance of making your home feel like your own.
Yeah. I love what you just said, that it's a beautiful place that they don't recognize. They need to be able to see themselves in the design.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
We say that all the time. We say that, any good designer can create, or should be able to create, a magazine swoon-worthy room. But to have, to mesh with a designer that can create your swoon-worthy room is what you want. The one that, you're going to walk into and feel like you're home. And that's when you know you nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the joy and the challenge and the excitement of being a designer. I mean, I could, if you give me a blank piece of paper and nothing, like no context or no client, like I just like this artificial thing, like I can put something together that's going to maybe be pretty, but it's not going to be like meaningful or have any sort of relevance. And so a question I get a lot from designers who are just getting started is they are struggling with this idea of trying to decide. They feel like they need to make a decision. Am I going to be a designer that's known for a look or not, right? Because we know that there's designers that have like that signature look, and how much does that play into their, their branding, really? That's the question that I think they're getting to. And I love what you said, because it points to this idea that you don't have to pick, right? You can be known for a vibe, right? But every single client is the next challenge, is the next iteration, and your client is the inspiration and at the core, because like you said, you're going to be gone eventually. And, so you want it to be something that they can really see themselves in. And for me personally, we do a deep dive interview with our clients after. It's one of the very first steps we do after they've signed on with us. Prior to that, we've done a discovery call and a consultation and maybe some other preliminary meetings, but where we're really understanding the scope of the work, the function, what do they need, what's the budget, all of that stuff. But I maybe know a little bit about them, but it's the deep dive interview where it's like a date. Like, I want to get to know you. And I'm curious, because that, for me, that is a hotbed of inspiration, and it can be the tiniest little nugget that somebody says, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? Let's talk about that. And then we go down this little rabbit hole, and it's relaxed, and we have coffee, and it's fun, and it can be an hour. I've had they've gone for 2 hours. I had this one couple in Texas. They were adorable, and they had so many stories, and we just lost track of time, and it's like 3 hours later. And it was one of the best projects I ever worked on. So how do you, if you're going to set out to do this with your clients and really create a space specifically for them, how do you go about uncovering who they are so that you can incorporate that into your designs?
So we start out similar to you with kind of that introduction discovery call. We do a pretty in-depth questionnaire. And then, after our first on-site meeting, we'll really go through what is the feeling they want to impart, not necessarily asking for words, but showing more photos. So we like all of our potential clients to make, whether it be a board on Houzz or Pinterest or even just a ton of magazine clippings. And we tell people, don't just pick, if you're doing, primarily your living room or bedroom, don't just pick all living room, bedrooms, just anything that you love. And even if you can't tell us what you love about it, if it's just a wall or just a gallery, like anything that just, when we look at everything together, it's so much easier for us to get a sense of what tones they're drawn to, what types of lines they want to see, the overall, do you want to be more livable and casual, or are you looking for something more glamorous and formal? And looking at all of these photos and seeing them in their home, maybe with their family. Do they have pets? What do they like to do? All of those things, just part of their lifestyle is what you're designing around. So that's really, we really, really, really focus on all of those photos, because more often than not, we get people, especially here, who say, I'm very modern. I want things that are very modern. And then we'll see photos.
What does that mean?
You are traditional.
Yeah.
Cannot be more traditional than so, words that the new clients don't know, but we're able to really get a sense for just kind of seeing them interact with their own family members and how they live their lives is really, really how we do it.
Yeah. Oh, that so resonates. The words that people use, I think it's like almost like buzzwords that they think they're supposed to be saying, but it means something different to everybody. So I can see how the imagery is a really helpful jumping off point to start that conversation. Awesome. Well, I want to wrap up with just two last questions. I want to hear, as we're moving into this new year, what are some of your goals for the year ahead, or things that you want to do in this year ahead as a business?
Well, I think that Jillian and I have kind of been going through this with the new year coming up, and we feel like we've gotten to the point in our business where we have done a little piece of everything that would go into a hotel, except the hotel. So that's
Oh,
kind of our 2024 goal, is to do like a boutique hotel or some kind of
oh,
like a cool small I don't know. Just we sort of have this vision of this beautiful little boutique place in some great little location. I mean, we've done the function rooms and the restaurants and the corporate
mhm,
offices and the multifamily, spaces, and
yeah.
we've done lobbies, we've done hallways, we've done
Uh-huh.
bedrooms and guest rooms. So now it's just a matter of taking all of those pieces and putting them together
Yeah.
into one. So that's our big goal.
Mm.
Oh, how fun. Oh my gosh, what a fun thing to call in, to your year, and what a fun project. I secretly dream of being a boutique hotelier. I love the idea of owning. I don't want to operate it. I want to come up with the concept. I want to design it, and then I
Yeah.
want people to just have an amazing time there. But I love hotels, and I can see how that would be such a fun project to work on, and you are fully developed and have the skill set to do that. So I'm excited for both of you in seeing that happen. And then my last question, I love to read. I have a ton of books, both business and novels, but I'd love to hear what other people are reading. So are there some books that you guys have read that as business owners or as designers have been really impactful for you that you hope other designers might consider reading?
I recently read, I don't know if you are on Peloton, but I love Tunde on Peloton. And this was totally not a business venture, but I recently
Yeah.
read her autobiography, Speak. And it was so motivating to me that I actually felt like it was like a business, I don't know, just a business
Yeah.
motivator for me as well as personal. I just love her and everything about her. She is so motivating to me. I think she is
Yeah.
just such an incredible, strong woman. And I'm obsessed, but I loved her autobiography. It just made me feel like you can do anything you put your mind to doing, and you just have to work your butt off to get there.
Yeah.
And so I really loved that. So I would definitely recommend it.
Tell me her name again because this is ringing a bell, and I think she did a
Yes.
master class because I also
Oh,
I
maybe.
do I watch the master class series. What's her name again?
Tunde Oyene, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. She always goes by Tunde, but she is incredible. I'm obsessed with her on Peloton. So naturally, as soon as her book came out, I had to read it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was her, and it was again so inspiring because she is just a
Oh,
powerhouse. So we'll make sure to link to that book in the notes.
definitely.
Anything else?
Susan, have you been
No
reading?
one, I don't think there's any one book.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love to read. I read mostly fiction, things that transport me someplace else.
Yeah.
But biographies of any strong woman from history. I like to take a lot from
Ooh,
history and women who were
yeah.
ahead of their time and what they did and how they helped to pave the way for all of us now to be able
Mm-hmm.
to do what we do
Mm-hmm.
and why we do it. So I really like to go back
Yeah.
to history and find some of those great strong women.
Yeah. Can you think of one specifically that you really loved reading?
Well,
Not
the
to put you
story,
on the
Eleanor
spot, but
Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt's story is just like so
oh,
amazing that to just, to see what she did back then in her time.
yeah.
Um, and it's just like every day you hear something different. I was just learning so much. Rosalind Carter passed away. Never even
Mm-hmm.
knew some of the things that she did during her lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in on cabinet meetings and really being part of the process and not just being the person that walks next to him, the president, as he walks into a room. Things like that have paved the way for generations of women after her.
I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
also like in our profession too, Susan, I always say it's not, you know, we walk into a job site and it's primarily going to be a room full of men, whether it be the contractors or, anyone else there. And so we have had in the past to really cement down and say, nope, we're here and we deserve to be here just like you do. So sometimes it's nice to read those stories and just kind of get a little bit of that confidence, continuously built up and keep that strength.
Oh my gosh, I could go on and talk about that subject for a whole other hour because it's
for sure.
Yeah. And I can see how looking at women in history can be such a motivating thing to spend time reading about and understanding, because you're right, they have paved a way. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that a woman couldn't even start and own her own business. I mean,
for sure.
Let's talk about
you couldn't own a credit card.
Yeah, or buy a house. Like, it wasn't that long ago. So here we are doing all of those things. There's still a lot of work to do, but I feel really hopeful that we're moving in the right direction. I'm not going to go off on that because it's just, we'll save that for another time. But anyway,
let's book another date for that conversation.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Ladies, you have been an absolute joy and delight to listen to and to learn from. And I know for a fact that our listeners are going to truly enjoy hearing your story, sharing your honesty, and hopefully getting a lot of inspiration about how they can, do better in their business through sustainability, through owning a space in a room and a meeting when they're in there. There's so many wonderful nuggets here, and I couldn't be more grateful to have this opportunity. So thank you both.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was so much fun.
All right. And before we go, where can designers find you online and on social media?
Sure. So our website is www.susanhaywardinteriors.com, and you can reach out. We're on Instagram as well. Our handle is at SUHAY Interiors. So at Suhay Interiors.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to all of that in our show notes as well. Thank you, ladies, for your time today. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Hey friend, thank you so much for letting me spend a part of this day with you. I'm so passionate about helping designers like you, and I believe in a rising tide, that when one of us does well, we all do better. So if you share this attitude of abundance with me, I want you to do just one little thing. Please share this episode with someone you think might love it. And if you're feeling extra generous today, go ahead and take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's free for you to do, and it helps me to be able to keep making more episodes and resources for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you soon.